Pluto is in the 29th degree of Capricorn. Woman reading tea leaves. Interpretation of spiritual messages. As above, so below. All is connected to and mirrored by all else. It becomes trite to the occultist as a concept, but to the realized being it is their main purpose, to see beneath form, facts, feelings, and fear. These are all aspects of the glamour that we falsely see as reality, which covers the truth beneath. And that truth is the pattern that interconnects everything, everywhere, and always. We find the term seeker needs to be updated to troubadour, I have found. We have learned how to see clearly. So, we may see the signs, and yet we need also to know what they mean. This is to do with interpretation of subtle spiritual messages, facts and opinions. To balance seen and unseen worlds, feelings have to be tested in experience. Woman reading tea leaves. It's not at all uncommon or recent. This has been going on for a very long time. The reading of tea leaves, on the face of it, is nonsense, but you actually have to understand this on a much more subtle level. And when trying to explain to people that astrology works, you really do need to say how it works and why it works to convince them that it's not the way they think. A lot of people think that the planets are causal in human behavior. That's never been proved. There is some kind of correlation. So there's meaning within, deep within astrology, but very few astrologers have found it. And those who have are actually more interested in the other side. And the other side is that we have the capability of shaping our thoughts, shaping our mind, therefore, differently. Emphasizing one way in which mind can be used over another to rebalance the imbalance which has occurred in much of world history. So we think of the brain as having two sides, and the right side of the brain is to do with the more intuitive side, and the left brain is the more rational side. And this is a dichotomy. One is more masculine, one is more feminine, and it brings us to understand how to study the nature of things. Some people like to say, this is the case, therefore this, therefore that, therefore the other, and so this is the result. Other people like to think, okay, there's all of this going on, how does it touch my feelings? I don't know how or why, and I can't prove it, but this is what I know. People that are able to do that are smaller in number, and the people that are able to trust their intuition to that extent are very, very small in number. And that's what Capricorn 29 is about. It's not to do with reading tea leaves so you know the future, which is not really knowable. The future is made up of two aspects. That which can be predicted, what must happen. It's going to be night after daytime, day after nighttime, and so on. And what may not be known, the mystery of the future. And the tea leaves give a sense of patterning to that subtle mind, and they can therefore read lots more of what must be the case, and even something of what may be the case as a suggestion, but we can't know what may or may not be true. So the woman reading tea leaves is training herself in the art of intuition, as is the student astrologer. That's why we do astrology, actually, to open ourselves up to the intuitive aspect of knowledge. Now, just because it's not logical and based in measurable facts, can't be measured, it doesn't mean it's not meaningful at all. Most decisions are not based on logic. Most of the world, therefore, is actually operating on the more intuitive, subtle way of being. And you can understand why we do that. It's just that everything is just too complex. We can't understand it. with the logical mind. It's too complex. And anyway, it's unknown. Things that we need to know about, we don't have the information about. So for those two reasons, logic has got a very limited application. Most of us need to have a subtle and strong trust in our intuition in order to use it for survival purposes and to get on in the world and to know what otherwise cannot be known. I think Jones puts this point across very well, and he's saying this, Capricorn 29, a woman reading tea leaves. This is a symbol of man's persistent desire to establish conscious relationship with an invisible world of over-reality, giving an emphasis here on the side of outer or everyday self-encouragement. The mind has its ultimate focus in eternal and universal coordinates, and ever tends to fit the exigencies of practical living into some pattern of possible consummations. Difficult sentence, that one. The mind tries to fit the emergencies of everyday life into some model of potential truths, looks at what may be the uncertain aspect of the future. Conscious experience, therefore, comes to be supplemented by intuition as a direct realization of pure potentiality. The key word is signature. When positive, the degree is naive insight as brought to high intelligence in meeting the recurrent issues of life, and when negative, superstitious dependence on the unknown. People that go to women who read tea leaves on the seashore, that's quite commonplace in the history of our country. These gypsy, perhaps they weren't gypsies, but these women that dress like gypsies and ask you to pass silver across their palm and so on. This is a kind of an activity which has been given the reputation of being charlatanism. And sometimes that's valid. It's just entertainment. It's of a sort. It's reassurance. It's giving people that need emotional comfort what they need. It's not very wrong. And some people go to these tea leaf readers and they believe the predictions. That might not be sensible. But what the main thing is that we can reassure people that their feelings are valid and that they should trust their own intuition. That's the best thing we can do. So we trust ours as astrologers, and the best thing to do is not really to be definitive about what's going to happen in the future, which nobody knows, or definitive about the personality of the person, which is actually a choice in the moment by moment. We weren't born to have a certain personality. The horoscope tells us likelihoods, inclinations, the path of least resistance, if you like. But it doesn't say you must enact it. We have free will to decide what we're going to do with our potentials. And in this particular case, what Jones is saying is that when life throws something at us and we just don't know how to cope, it's not a bad idea to take some consultations from somebody whose intuition is the mainstay of their life, and not just trust tried and tested methods. Just opening up your intuition allows you to balance what you feel with what you think. And this is what this degree is about. So Pluto is there. Now, Pluto is there just before going into Aquarius, of course, which is going to change the world in a very big way. The next 20 years will see such changes as we have not even imagined in science fiction movies, I guess. That would be my tea leaf prediction. So here's Pluto looking at tea leaves before it goes into Aquarius, saying, well, I wonder what's going to happen next. We don't know. None of us knows what the future holds, but it will be transforming our sense of reality especially Aquarius reality, which is to do with what we all do together, what humanity does collectively in group consciousness. That's shifting. Now, if anybody wanted to give a symbol of when we all knew the age of Aquarius had well and truly started, why not when Pluto goes into Aquarius, this 20-year period? That's when we'll know it. This 20-year period will say, right, you're in that age now. You're in the age of Aquarius, not what you were before. And that is coming soon. And we've had a clue as to what it is with Uranus and Neptune both in Aquarius recently. So we're looking now at Aquarius. We're trying to guess what's happening with Pluto and Aquarius shifts. And the exercise we're going through right now with Pluto in the 29th Capricorn is this tea leaf kind of exercise, looking for patterns. And the tea leaves, what you do with tea leaves, you make some tea with leaf, not tea bags. And you swirl around the cup and throw out the liquid, and you're left with a pattern of tea leaves, which is a bit like an ink blot. And you use your intuition to interpret that. And some people just go into a state and they can see things. And this has been used throughout the ages in different ways. In some places like Appalachian Mountains, I think they hang people backwards over a well and get them to look at the reflection of the moon in the water of the well, and the whole unusualness of that gives them an insight. So that's the kind of thing that we're dealing with here. Tarot cards is another example, I Ching and so on. Lots of divinatory tools that give you a sense of oracular predictions of the future. So Pluto is here now. So we're looking at Pluto's future. We're looking at big things. We're looking at the shifts through one theme of humanity's expression from Capricorn to Aquarius in this particular case. And Capricorn has been all to do with organization on the sort of government level, the financial principles, the economic policies, the management of society in that Capricornian way. And here we have in 29 exactly the opposite. There's no organization in these tea leaves at all, and Pluto's there. So the grip Pluto has had on its Capricorn way of being, well, it's having to let go now. It will revisit Capricorn again later in September, but only briefly, for very few weeks. So we're starting to get an intuitive sense now of what to expect of humanity's experience over the next 20 years. And you may well have profound insights over the next month. Pluto's in the 29th degree of Capricorn for a month. And during this month, you're going to get the possibility of profound insights, not just whether Betty is going to get off with John or you're going to have 3 kids instead of 4 or whatever. Not that kind of domestic stuff, but whether or not the implications of COVID, of the demographic imbalances in China and Russia, and the big things that are shaping humanity's future. You're going to get some insights, perhaps, if you focus your attention on this question. You have to do that. You're not going to just be given them. You've got to seek, then you'll find what the future holds on the big scale. And from that, you can work out what you need to do to organize your situations such that you've got the best possible options for doing the right thing when big changes occur in life. So it may be that Pluto in the 29th degree of Capricorn opens up our intuition of Pluto things. But also, of course, Pluto will operate on that Sabian symbol, and it will change something about the way we consult the oracle. That seems likely, doesn't it? So there might be a popularization of a divinatory tool, for example. other things can happen around that sort of way of opening up to the existence of another world. So that is assumed when you're reading the tea leaves, and when you're doing tarot, we just assume that there exists this other world, which Sufis call the astral plane. A lot of people don't know that. Now, what if something happened and then they just opened up to that possibility all at the same time over the next few weeks? That would be something, wouldn't it? If there was a sudden reason why people started to exist in another world, to place themselves not only in this physical reality, but also in the realm of the astral, where feelings and intuitions and imagination are actually that which matters. So, mythology. So, Pluto, 29th degree of Capricorn for the next month, developing very profound intuition.